I recently went to California's Great America and I really enjoyed my day at the empty park. I got to share my thoughts on Railblazer in my most recent video, but I wanted to talk about some of the other coasters I rode, and I thought the best way to do this is compiling it into a tier list. So here's a tier list with all 9 coasters from California's Great America. We are going in no particular order, so we are starting right off the bat with Gold Striker. Now going into Gold Striker, I have heard a lot of hype about it, and a lot of bad things about it. Roughness is not my thing, and going into it, I just didn't think I would enjoy this coaster as much as I did because of the roughness. The only other wooden coaster I have ridden is this coaster's rival coaster, that being Ghost Rider, and since the two are compared to each other by everyone, I was finally going to get my say into this debate. Now Ghost Rider currently stands at my number 4, the lowest ranking elite status, and it is very smooth. So Gold Striker had to live up to the hype, and it kinda did. I thought it was overall mediocre. There was a lot of jackhammering, but that was way different than a headbanging type of roughness, so it didn't really bother me. Gold Striker has some good laterals, but nowhere near as much as Ghost Rider because of the banking. The airtime was there in the first drop and quick pops throughout, and I thought there was overall more airtime than its counterpart in Buena Park. Now I could possibly make a whole video matching these two coasters up, and I might in the near future, but tier list wise, Gold Striker lands in the solid A tier. Next up is Demon, an aerodynamics looper. This is one of the OG layouts of 2 loops and then a double corkscrew, and the ride is over. Now going into this, I thought I was going to hate this. I hate all aero loopers. They are not made for a person like me. I strongly dislike Viper, and I thought Canyon Blaster was only slightly better, but the impossible happened. You see, I actually really enjoyed Demon. Now was it a great coaster? No, but it was the first ever aero looper I got off of and said, yeah, I'll ride that again, and then again, and then again. This is the one coaster that I was so surprised I enjoyed at the end of the day. It has good forces of the loop, and it's like smooth as shit. The only rough part is the janky transition before the first corkscrew. The attempt at theming is also nice, though it is very minimal. One thing I want to mention is that before we were dispatched, an audio cue comes over that says like scanning riders or something like that, and the ride operator starts cranking his neck in circles. It's the funniest thing ever. It took everything to not laugh at him. But yeah, Demon surprised me with how smooth it is and it pulls good forces. However, it's definitely not elite or close to that, so it falls into the B tier. Next up is Lucy's Krabby Cabbies. It's a kiddie coaster. Do I need to say more? What's worse is that it's a kiddie coaster that I am not allowed to ride. Definitely 100,000% D tier. Okay, now I have to admit, Grizzly was down for maintenance while I was visiting the park, and yes, this does suck, but I had to get over it. I wasn't missing out on that much, right? I can't confidently place this in a tier for my personal anecdotes, but from others' reviews, Grizzly is rough and boring, like the worst combination ever. If you're gonna be rough, at least pull good forces. However, this is not a crappy kiddie coaster, and it actually looks like a fully fledged roller coaster, though it may be really bad. But for now, until I make a return trip, Grizzly is going to fall into the C tier. Now next up is Patriot, a coaster that I did not really care about. It would be interesting to ride another floorless coaster, but I knew going into this that this would be one of the worst ones. After all, it was converted from a stand-up and was one of B&M's first coasters, so the expectations were not too high. And when I got off, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected it to be. Now another thing that I said when I got off was, this feels so much like Demon, and the more that I think about it, the more the two coasters feel the same. Like, I seriously cannot tell you how much Patriot and Demon felt the same. The first drop is nothing notable on either coaster, and then Patriot hits a forceful vertical loop, Demon hits 2 of them, and then Patriot meanders like Demon does, and then Patriot hits a corkscrew, and Demon hits 2 of them. Already the layouts, they feel so similar, except Demon just does 2 loops and 2 corkscrews instead of 1. They also ride insanely similar, like Patriot is smooth, but has a little rattle and a couple of janky transitions, and listen to me when I say this, Patriot is rougher than Demon.
Oh my god!
It is, it's a fact, based on my experience, but yeah, Patriot was noticeably rougher than Demon, and I thought, wow, how could a B&M be rougher than a freaking aerodynamics coaster? I have no idea. Anyways, these two coasters feel so similar with the layouts and how they ride. Patriot is one more spot higher in my rankings though, because I like the floorless aspect, the B&M Aurora, and the gliding trains. But yeah, it also falls into the B tier with Demon. Okay, next up is another aerodynamics coaster, and it's smooth as well. Wow, 2 smooth aerodynamic coasters in one park. How is that even possible? Well, it's possible because this is the Wild Mouse. This is one of the most forgettable coasters for me. I had to look up a POV to remember what it even did. For one, the color scheme looks cool and it's fresh. I don't know when it got last repainted, but it looked like it was brand new. However, the operations were so freaking bad on this coaster, I don't even understand. This is how they were doing it. There are like 4 cars on the station platform. The first one, the rider's exiting the vehicle. The next one, they get on the vehicle and check your seatbelts. And then the next one, they put down your lap bars. But for one car to move up one, they legit had to wait for riders to get on and put on their seatbelts and then check it, so it ended up being a long time in between dispatches. Like one car would already be sitting on the final brake run before one would even get dispatched out of the station. And then you just sit on the brake run for 5 minutes because the operations are so bad. It was really strange, but the park was dead empty and this had a 15-minute wait, so I really hope they use a different strategy in the busier months. Of course, the ride itself was just okay. The turns at the top give good laterals, each one slightly better than the next, but as soon as you get to the part where you're like, hey, this actually might be somewhat enjoyable with these forceful laterals, a brake run just stops you and ruins any fun that you thought you were going to have. And that's my only complaint with this ride. The rest of it is some stupid forceless drops that every single wild mouse ever has, so it's a boring ride with terrible operations, but a fresh coat of paint. It's going into the C tier for me. Next up is the B&M Invert Flight Deck. Now this is a very good supporting cast coaster. I wouldn't say it's a standout attraction, but it definitely deepens Great America's lineup. This is a very short but sweet ride. The coaster isn't long, but every single element hits in the way it should. The first drop is very good, the vertical loop is forceful, and the 0G roll is whippy. The best part about this ride has to be the finale with the corkscrew and helix over the water. Not only is it sustained positive Gs, but it's in a cool setting. I don't have much complaints for this ride except that it's a tad short in duration. It does everything I want a B&M Invert to do. The elements hit with whip and positive Gs, so I have no idea what more you could possibly ask for. It almost feels like a Batman clone, except it's better than a Batman clone. I give this a solid spot in the A tier. Next up, we have an Intamin family / kiddie coaster. I went into this with the expectation that it was going to be horrible and just a +1. That was it. However, I do have some words to say about this coaster. I'm a super skinny dude, I'm like 5'9" or something, and I could barely fit into these trains. Like the seatbelt was crushing me from all sides. I have ridden E&F Miler, kiddie coasters, dragon wagons, like all of the above, but this has to be the least accommodating coaster I have ever ridden. Another thing that sucks is that when the ride ended and I tried to go and unbuckle my seatbelt, guess what? I couldn't. The ride operator had to come around and stick this pen into a little hole to get the seatbelts to release. You can really tell that this is an ancient contraption. Besides that, I don't have much to say about the layout. It's better than a typical kiddie coaster. You do get some sense of speed on the helix, but then again, it's a kiddie coaster. But the worst thing about it is how uncomfortable it was for me to ride it, definitely going in the D tier. Last but not least, we have Railblazer. We haven't had an elite coaster yet, so will Railblazer be the one to make the mark and get the coveted status? Well, let's see right now. Railblazer is obviously an RMC Raptor prototype, and I love RMC, I love Ejector. This is a coaster that I thought was going in this park would be my favorite. Of course, if you have watched last week's video, you know my thoughts on the ride, but here is a shorter version. Railblazer is very good. Not only does the rock work, water, and entanglement of track look physically appealing, the first drop, the dive loop, the airtime hill, and then the drop off the mid-course give insane ejector airtime. That and some of the inversions thrown in provide for a very well-sequenced series of elements. This coaster hauls through the layout and has an amazing amount of whip and very good pacing, which makes it a very intense coaster, especially in the back row. Although this coaster has an amazing layout that rides super well, I still have some complaints. For one, there is a little bit of a rattle that is seen on RMC Raptors, but it is completely ignorable. Like, it's very slight. I don't want to sound like a crybaby over this because it doesn't hurt the ride at all, it just exists and it's there. Additionally, the over-the-shoulder straps kind of hurt the ride experience for me. The airtime is still comfortable, but I just wish it was not there. But even with these two flaws, my main complaint is that I think this coaster is very short. I mean, it's short and sweet in every single way, but I came off the ride kind of wanting more. I still think Railblazer is the best coaster in the park. Gold Striker is a bit behind in my rankings, but yeah, it's not elite, it's going into the A tier. I know this may be a controversial opinion, but being an elite coaster is something I hold so high in my rankings that is not easily achieved, and Railblazer just falls short of the cut. Nevertheless, it's a solid coaster and the best in the park. A tier. So that's all 9 coasters at California's Great America put into a tier list. Let me know if you agree with me in the comment section below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.